The HOA decided to destroy me. Fines, inspections, eviction threats. They thought I would give up, but they didn't know that my garage was part of a network of 50 franchises, and now the rules would turn against them. And that's when things got really interesting. My name is Adam Harris, and until recently I thought I had life pretty well figured out. I lived in a small gated community in the suburbs of Chicago, the perfect place for those who appreciate peace, order, and a life free from unexpected troubles. We had manicured lawns, tidy houses, and friendly neighbors who smiled at each other in the mornings, even if they had been yelling at their kids over scattered toys just 5 minutes earlier. Life ran smoothly, like a perfectly tuned engine. But I had a secret. My garage wasn't just a place for my car. No, it wasn't a hidden casino, an underground lab, or anything shady. I simply used it as a logistics hub for my franchise network of auto repair shops, Harris Auto. It all started with one small garage, but over the years my business had grown into 50 branches across the country. These were service centers operating under my brand, following my standards and serving thousands of customers. But despite the scale, I kept my own life simple. I didn't flaunt my success, didn't park flashy sports cars in my driveway, and didn't throw wild parties. I was the perfect neighbor. No noise, no trouble, no rule breaking. All I did in my garage was receive a few boxes of spare parts, occasionally consult with clients, and coordinate my branches. To most people in the neighborhood, my garage was just another storage space filled with tools. But one morning, my peaceful life was shattered. A regular morning, coffee, a quick jog, planning the workday. I stepped outside, stretching under the sun, when I noticed an envelope pinned to my garage door. An official letter from the HOA board. I opened it, skimmed through the lines, and my pulse instantly spiked. Order for the immediate cessation of illegal activities within the residential community. Using residential property for commercial purposes violates HOA regulations and will result in penalties. Failure to comply may lead to further actions, including the initiation of eviction proceedings. I reread it, then again. What the hell? I exhaled, unable to believe my eyes. What the hell? I wasn't running a full-scale repair shop. I wasn't making noise. I wasn't disturbing anyone. All I had in my garage were shelves with tools, a few sets of tires, a laptop, and a printer for paperwork. Yes, occasionally clients would stop by to pick up orders or ask for advice, but that happened maybe once a week and never lasted more than 15 minutes. And now they were treating me like a criminal. I had lived here for 3 years without a single issue. I had helped my neighbors, fixed their cars as a favor, given them advice. And now they wanted to push me out of my own home? I looked at the letter again, gripping it tightly. This was a war I never saw coming. I wasn't about to just accept this nonsense. If someone had decided to brand me a violator, I wanted to know who, why, and for what purpose. The next day, I went to the HOA board meeting. The meeting room was in a small office building near the complex parking lot. Walls decorated with dull certificates, an old oval table, the smell of cheap coffee. It was the typical bureaucratic atmosphere where residents' fates were decided without ever stepping outside the air-conditioned space. 3 people sat in front of me. Mike Wallace, the HOA president, an older man with graying temples and the face of someone who was always convinced he was right. He held a copy of the HOA bylaws in front of him like it was the Holy Scripture. Susan Wallace, his wife, who had apparently taken on the role of the neighborhood watchdog. Arms crossed, she looked at me like I was a tax evader, or worse, an actual criminal. Todd Baylor, the only one who seemed somewhat friendly, but he was that type of guy who nodded along with the most powerful person in the room and later claimed, "I was against it, but there was nothing I could do." I sat across from them, folded my hands on the table, and prepared for another lecture on rules and restrictions. "So, what's the problem?" I asked bluntly. Mike tapped his finger on the bylaws. "You're violating the residential complex regulations," he stated firmly. "How exactly? I'm not running a full-fledged auto shop. It's my garage, and I use it as such." Susan immediately pursed her lips as if I had just said something offensive. "You're using it for business, and that is prohibited." I clenched my jaw. These people seriously thought a few boxes of tools and a couple of clients a week was a crime? "And what exactly am I violating?" Mike adjusted his glasses, brought the bylaws closer, and, with a self-important look, read aloud. Section 4.2.6. Commercial activity within the residential complex is prohibited if it affects the safety, comfort, or intended use of the property. He set the document down and looked at me as if to say, "Gotcha." I scoffed. Safety? Comfort? Who am I bothering? "That's irrelevant." Mike cut me off, raising his hand. "The fact that you're running a business has been established. Therefore, action must be taken." I was starting to boil. "You use my services yourselves," I reminded him, locking eyes with Mike. Silence. Todd shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Susan glanced at her husband. Mike turned red. Of course he did. He had come to me 3 times to get his old Ford Explorer checked and fixed, for free. And now he sat here, pretending to uphold the law? He coughed and muttered, "That's irrelevant. Rules are rules." And that's when I understood. It wasn't about the garage. It wasn't about the rules. They just wanted to show me who was in charge. I wasn't going to back down. Not because the garage was critical to my business. Not because I had nothing better to do. But out of principle. I can't stand it when people hide behind the letter of the law to abuse their power, especially when they conveniently bend those same rules whenever it suits them. So the first thing I did was figure out just how legitimate their claims actually were. The law was on my side. Sitting at my computer, I combed through dozens of pages of local regulations. And here's what I found. The HOA cannot prohibit residents from working remotely. That means if someone is doing accounting, writing code, or processing orders from their garage, it's 100% legal. The HOA cannot ban business activity as long as it doesn't disturb the neighbors. In other words, if I wasn't making noise, ruining the neighborhood's appearance, or blocking traffic, they had no grounds to take action against me. The HOA is not a government body. Their rules only apply as long as they don't contradict city and state laws. Armed with these facts, I called my lawyer, John Freeman. "Adam, this is ridiculous. They're just trying to pressure you into backing down," he said. "But they're threatening me with fines and eviction," I reminded him. "Let them try. We'll file a complaint. If they're violating your rights, we'll make sure they're the ones who end up with the real problem." Sounded like a plan. I signed an official complaint against the HOA for abuse of power and sent it to the city's Homeowner Rights Protection Committee. But the HOA board had already started this war, and now they felt it was too late to back down. A few days later, I received an official notice from the Department of Housing. The HOA had filed a complaint against me. They claimed I was illegally using residential property for commercial purposes, that my garage didn't comply with community regulations, and that I was disrupting the comfort of the residents. Now I was facing an inspection, potential fines, and even the possibility of being banned from living in my own home. Honestly, I was shaking with anger. This wasn't just about shutting down my garage anymore. They wanted to destroy me. And that's when I finally understood. This was no longer about the garage. It was about power, about control, about them deciding, we get to say who's allowed here and who isn't. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I could have fought back with bureaucracy, complaints, lawsuits, legal battles, but that would take too long. I had an ace up my sleeve. I decided to hit them where it really hurt. Everything they valued depended on me, and they had no idea. I realized that the best way to fight the system was to use its own methods against it. The HOA board had tried to handle everything quietly through bureaucracy, but they forgot one thing. I wasn't the only one living in this community, so I walked around the neighborhood and started telling people exactly what was happening. Did you know they're trying to evict me just because I have tools in my garage? Did you know that Mike used my services 3 times, but now he calls me a violator? People were shocked. Half the residents in the complex had used my services at some point. Some had their cars repaired by me. Some had received discounts at my franchise locations. Some had thanked me for helping when their battery died on the road. And now, these same people found out that the HOA had launched a war against me, threatening me with fines and eviction. "This isn't right," I said. "Mike and Todd are abusing their power. I propose a vote for their removal." The idea took off immediately. We gathered signatures and, by majority vote, scheduled an emergency residence meeting. And that was just the first step. Turning the tables. The next day, I called the headquarters of Harris Auto. "We're launching a marketing campaign. Target area, Greenwood Estates. Offer discounts for local residents. And one more thing, put up banners." "Banners?" my business partner asked. "Yes, right at the entrance. My garage is no longer just a garage. It's now an official Harris Auto Service Center, fully legal. Let's see the HOA try to shut it down now." 2 weeks later, a massive advertisement appeared at the entrance to the community. Official Harris Auto Service Center. On-site vehicle maintenance. Best prices. Exclusive discounts for Greenwood Estates. Residents. Now my garage was a registered commercial establishment. The HOA could no longer touch it. Mike tried to fight back. He called a meeting and desperately argued that garage businesses are ruining our cozy neighborhood. But no one listened. Now, I was on the side of the law. He wasn't. In the end, the residents voted for his removal. As he walked out of the meeting, I simply said, "Next time you try to mess with a neighbor, think twice." Justice was served.